For his former England head coach Duncan Fletcher and for his fans all over the world, Monty Panesar was the best finger spinner in the world. From 2006 to 2013, he played for England, earning the reputation of the beard to be feared and a long list of prestigious sport awards. But as well as being a cricket legend, Monty is also a vocal advocate for racial equality. Shortly after, a fellow cricketer Azim Rafiq spoke out against institutional racism at Yorkshire club and Michael Holding's moving speech. I met with Monty Panesar to understand how his diverse upbringing and his career have influenced his commitment today in ending inequality, and to know more about his take on what the next steps are to protect diversity in the UK. Monty, thank you so much for being here today.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me on your show.
You were born in the UK, but your parents migrated to London in the 1970s from India. You have had an incredible sporting career and you have worked around the world with a diverse collection of people. What would you say has been the main highlight of your experience of diversity in sports?
Diversity in sports for me, when I first experienced it was in Luton, when we had like a mini sort of World Cup, like it was England, West Indies, India, Pakistan. But it was like the Luton Pakistanis, Luton Indians, Luton Caribbeans, and they were called the Luton Nomads, the England team. And it was very natural to mix with black people, Pakistanis, white people, all mixing together. But it's interesting to see now, since we've had the Black Lives Matter movement, I reckon there has been a change, you know, and the change is that people do feel that there is institutional racism, therefore people feel experiencing racism. Before, I think 20, 25 years ago, I think there was more of a cohesion, but it all really depends on the area that you've come from. Now, I came from Luton, so my experience was very much about diversity, everyone including together. And funny enough, we have the radio station, which everyone kind of listens to in Luton. It's called Diverse FM as well. My upbringing was very much, you know, diversity and being in diverse communities. So everyone has a different perspective.
You played for England from 2006 to 2013, and you said that you've never felt discriminated against, but this was not the case, for instance, for ex-cricketer Azim Rafiq. He has recently said that racism at club left him close to suicide.
I think athletes feel a lot more safer to talk about, you know, any racial issues that they're facing, and also it's to do with your mental health as well. You know, Azim Rafiq, he just had to speak about it because, you know, when you talk about things, you know, it helps you mentally. Being a brown person, I don't believe I face the level of racism that I think black people do in this country. When I was younger, like one of my black friends, I said to him, "Put this in your bag," and he goes, "No, I can't, you know, because the security guard outside is going to think I'm stealing something. Let's do it outside, and also make sure you know, get the receipt from the shop." I've had some nice cars in my time, never been stopped by the police. But then I've seen my black friends, you know, I sit with them in the passenger side, and suddenly you feel that if there's a police car there, you kind of think, actually, I really feel it that I'm going to get stopped.
Recently, in a very powerful speech, we've seen Michael Holding calling on educating society on racism. Back in June, the government bodies on more than 80 of the UK sports have said that they have not done enough to tackle and confront racism at all levels. Do sports offer enough opportunities and inclusion for minority groups in the UK?
People who are from private schools tend to find maybe possibly more opportunities in sports. And also, you know, like myself, I went to Stopsley High School, which was a state school, but I had a very good cricket club called Luton Town and Indians, had Dunstable Town Cricket Club, which was close by. We look at Michael Holding's speech, which was unbelievable. You know, he talked about, they did this research on 130 teachers where they just detected their attention, you know, where was their eye and their you know, eyes focused. 95% of their focus was on the black students. So the area I was from, you know, sport was a big thing. Now, I know some people who come from, you know, areas where their children go to good private schools, but they don't have a good, a good cricket club or a good sports club, to get involved with. So it really depends from a community perspective. Different areas, what opportunities are present, and I think it's like a case by case, region by region sort of basis. To tackle racism, that's how it needs to, I believe, needs to be tackled.
So the first step should be understanding racism and diversity at a local level.
And I believe the next step, to tackle racism has to be more regional. The local MPs, they need to say, like, these are the racism or the institutional racism we're experiencing in particular areas, which could be different to another area.
You have recently stated that counties should offer more support to cricketers from minority backgrounds. Do you expect a positive response to your call?
Yorkshire actually have responded, really well. They've developed a subcommittee, and they've got some influential, British Asians in there. So from a diverse perspective, I think it's a great example that if any company, any organisation is facing, let's say, racism in their sort of, in their organisation, then you should develop, a subcommittee, but have people representing different, faces. Like in Yorkshire, they're going to have got some influential British Asian people in there, because sometimes it's not let's say the British white man's fault. If they're not aware of the diverse situations, only a British Asian can tell them this and educate them, like, guys, this is actually quite racist, it's quite a sensitive topic if you behave in this way, or if you say these things to, let's say, a British Asian or a black person. But that voice can only be understood if at the board level they have, let's say, a black person there or a British Asian who is telling the white person how, what are the sensitive topics.
Monty, when we first spoke, I was very impressed by something you said, because you said that it's not only important to fight racism in sports, but it's also very important to fight racism and inequality in the society through sports. How can we do that?
In cricket was brilliant in terms of promoting the message, and it just seems to get it right, And you look at when we won the World Cricket World Cup.
Guptill's going to push for two. They've got to go. Throw's got to go to the keeper's end. He's got it. England have won the World Cup by the barest of margins. By the barest of all margins.
Owen Morgan, he's Irish. Ben Stokes is from New Zealand. Jason Roy is South African. Jeffrey Archer's from Barbados. Abdul Rashid, Moeen Ali are British Muslims. That's a very diverse team, and they won the World Cup.
How do you think that sports could benefit from such expansion from an ethical and commercial perspective?
So, the ECB have proven that diversity is a strength. Diversity, you can win tournaments, you can, like we won the World Cup. And that's a great example for other multinational companies. It's a proven fact, a diverse workplace actually enhances the production of the employees. It makes people better as all-round individuals. It makes you more creative. Sport, if sport and the media channels, start promoting these messages, the things that you see on TV will be a huge influence when it comes to, the organizations as well.
Recently, following the death of George Floyd, we've seen many messages, many positive and inspiring messages from athletes and sporting associations such as NBA, Formula One and NASCAR. What do you think that this has triggered at a social level?
I think, when people at the top end who represent their countries or the sports that you see on TV, it can be quite an easy thing to do. Take the knee, wear the Black Lives Matter t-shirts like the Premiership did for 12 games, like the England cricket team did, then also Formula One did, and other sports as well. But then after a few weeks, that's it stops. But how does it, the big impact is going to be on the normal person that does the 9-to-5 jobs, that, are working day to day. How is it changing in their lives? Now, that, I think, is what has to be the next step now. There needs to be some sort of survey, there needs to be some sort of, research taking place that actually has is racism changed in local areas, in local communities, local businesses. How are they tackling it? And I think that we need to find out about these things as well.
Many athletes have faced a backlash for publicly supporting Black Lives Matter and for publicly supporting diversity. They are being told, stick to sports. Why do you think it's important to voice these opinions publicly?
Because sports is a massive platform. You look at how many people will be watching football games, cricket, fans all around the world. It's the easiest way to actually promote a message. And it's a brilliant way of doing it. Everyone loves watching their favourite teams. They love the sport they love watching. And I think the next stage has to be, we've seen changes are taking place at the media channels. It's about now boardroom level as well. I would love to get involved with the ECB at some sort of diversity level, have a British Asian voice in there, and help British Asians in this country by being a voice at boardroom level for the ECB, or the PCA. So being an athlete myself, I believe I can help and work together in solving some difficult issues.
As a sportsman, do you see sport as a good platform to educate on human rights? And if so, how do you think that is best done?
Yeah, look, I think some sports people have voiced their opinions, well, while others feel that the topic may be a little bit sensitive. But I think effectively, when a white person talks about Black Lives Matter, I think people will listen to that a lot more. But what we want is everyone working together and opportunities where bigger organizations, the likes of Amazon, Facebook, some of the high-tech companies like Sony, Samsung, mobile phone companies, they have brought in some people to make these changes. If a person in a workplace is facing racism, if a person in a sports organization is facing it, they must speak up about it, because now is the time, and people want to know. People want to hear your concerns and your issues on racism. So please, if anyone is facing any form of racism, speak up in the media.
How do you envision the implementation of diversity in the sports world, in the UK and internationally? What needs to happen?
You can't just sort of have sport teams and media channels making the changes. It's got to come from the government as well. Like Boris Johnson, has already set up an ethical, committee to tackle, racism in this country. But what are the practical ways we're going to, deal with this stuff? The likes of Boris Johnson, he needs to address this. He needs to say, right, we are doing a diverse racial program, and we are going to investigate and put some research out there in different parts of England and see what racial issues are there, let's say, north of England, south of England, maybe somewhere, west of England and the east. What are they going to do to tackle racism, let's say the issues that are up north? What are the racial issues? I don't know. I don't know what they are. What are they down south? We're just at the moment talking about hashtag Black Lives Matter, and it's just a movement of people protesting. But what are the issues in different parts of England? I don't know the answer to that. How are we going to find the answer? Boris Johnson must develop a racial diverse program to find out what are the local racial issues in different parts of England.
Monty Panesar, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk about how sports can help with racial issues in different parts of England.
And thank you so much for being with us for another episode of IOHR TV. From myself, Margherita Cargasacchi. Until next time, goodbye.